Hey everybody, it's our last lesson of the day, Tuesday, May 26th. We're doing day 39 lessons and we're going to be working on science. Now, in science, it wants us to talk about matter and continue to talk about the observable properties of matter. We've already talked about like longer, shorter, taller, hard, soft, like texture. That are some observable properties of matter. Today we're going to be talking about weight, just like we did in math. I would like to start us out by watching a little video that covers several of the observable, that's a hard word to say, observable properties of matter, and gives you some like good vocabulary if you're ready for a little bit more of a challenge. This video gives us some good vocabulary in regards to Yes. Gives us some good vocabulary in terms of observable properties of matter. I don't think you don't need any materials today. Okay. So let's just go ahead and watch that video. This is called Measurement Mystery.
Have you ever gotten up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and stumble out of bed and then smash? And then after that, ow! Well, that has happened to me. In fact, just last night. Got up, went to get some water, and kicked something really hard. And now, my toe hurts. So bear with me. But if you're at all like me, having this happen to you likely brought a few things to your mind. Like, 1, turning on the lights would probably have been a good idea. 2, what did I trip over? And 3, who left it there? The second of these questions is pretty important because it's a question that's the essence of so much science, and that is, what is this thing? No matter what that thing is, I can tell you that it's made up of matter, and all matter has properties, specific characteristics that separate it from other kinds of matter. If you remember from the last episode, properties are things we can observe and measure, things like an object's length, width, height, and volume. But how can we use these kinds of properties to identify an object? I am so glad you asked, because we're going to do a little investigation together. So today we're going to solve the mystery of what did Sabrina trip over in the middle of the night? And we'll do this by examining the properties of said mystery object, which I happen to have right here, hidden under the cloth. But before we start our investigation, did you know that there are different kinds of units that can be used to measure things? You can measure in feet, or pounds, or gallons. If you wanted, I guess you could also measure in jelly beans, but that would take a long time. So we'll just go ahead and use the International Standard Units, also known as the metric system. You might know these units as meters, grams, and liters. And the markings on my measuring tape here divide a meter into 100 smaller pieces of equal size. Each of these is a centimeter, 1/100th of a meter. Okay, now back to this mystery object. Feeling around, it's got nice straight sides, and 2 sides are larger than the other 2. That means we're dealing with a rectangle here. Now, let's give those sides a measure. Looks like it's about 23 centimeters wide, about 30 centimeters tall, and about 5 centimeters high. So we have some measurements. That's a good start, but it's not enough to tell us what this thing is. So let's measure another property, its mass.
Another way of saying that is weight, right? We've been talking about weight.
To do this, we need a different tool, a scale, and we'll use a different unit too. In the metric system, the unit of mass is called a gram. A paperclip has a mass of about a gram. Whatever this is kind of heavy. It's almost 3,000 grams. So here we have an object that is pretty heavy, hard, smooth, and rectangular. Let's see, what other objects do I know of that fit that description? Tennis racket? Nope, it's not my socks or my stuffed panda, and we've already ruled out my tablet. Oh, I know, it's my science book. I was doing a little reading last night and put it on the floor before I turned the lights out. So we've been able to identify a mystery object by observing and measuring its properties. We used units in the metric system to put values on properties such as grams for mass and centimeters for length, width, and height. And those numbers gave us enough clues to solve the mystery of what I kicked in the dark. So remember, when it comes to measuring, think metric. And when it comes to identifying objects, take a tip from me. Avoid identifying them with your toe.
Let's take a look at our assignment for science. It says, with permission from an adult, gather 2 objects. Decide which object is lighter and explain why. Ask an adult which is lighter and have them explain why. Compare your answers. So for example, the marshmallow is lighter than the shoe. I know this because my hand feels like it floats when I hold it. Then you're supposed to repeat that at least 5 times with different objects. So then you would pick up 2 different objects and explain which is lighter. All right? Or which is heavier. If a larger object feels lighter, because remember, large doesn't always mean heavy. Sometimes there are large objects that are pretty light, like that huge pot that Owen had on his head earlier, since it was empty and because it's just made out of plastic, even though it's big, it was pretty light. Okay, if the larger object feels lighter, talk about how a smaller object isn't always lighter. Finally, line up all 12 objects with the lightest first. Draw, write, or take a picture of the items in order and explain your thinking in written words. Okay, so what you can do here is you're going to, I guess, find 12 objects all together, and you're going to kind of compare which one feels heavier and which one feels lighter. I can't use both of my hands right now, but with these 2 objects, the die is definitely lighter than the marker. Then, if I want to bring in another object, the crayons are definitely heavier than the marker, okay? So I'm going to find 12 objects and line them up from lightest to heaviest. You guys are going to do that as well. And then I think you should just have someone in your family take a picture for you. But another option is you could, like if you don't have an adult who can do that for you, you could get a blank piece of paper and just draw the objects in order from lightest to heaviest. You might have to do, I would think you would have to do 2 rows or 3 rows, just lightest all the way down to heaviest. Okay, guys, so that's what you're going to be working on. Go ahead and pause the video and get to work.